ticket to freedom or disaster. She'd dreamed of this day for years, but now that it had arrived, her stomach was doing somersaults. Independence had always been her obsession, control, her greatest challenge, and maddeningly unshakable. The kind of man who made silence feel like a full conversation. He greeted her with a polite smile, clipboard in hand, his voice low and steady. "Ready to start?" Lena nodded too quickly, pretending she didn't notice how her heart reacted to the warmth behind his words. Like rain after a storm, the engine came to life with a hesitant growl, mirroring her nerves. "Ease into the clutch," Juan instructed, his tone calm, almost patient enough to make her believe she could do this. Lena exhaled a laugh too, embarrassed yet oddly comforted. In that fleeting moment, something unspoken settled between them, a spark that neither fully noticed, yet both quietly felt. "You don't fight the car," he said gently. "You listen to it." His voice carried that calm firmness that somehow grounded her, even when her instincts screamed to overcorrect every move. Dozens of students before, but Lena felt different. Maybe it was her fire. Raw, unpredictable, like she had something to prove not just to the road, but to herself. He admired her determination, even when it made her reckless. First time a quiet smile crossed her lips, half relief, half pride. At a red light, Lena dared to glance at him. "You're very patient," she said, half teasing, half testing. Juan smiled, eyes still forward. Outside, the horns, the noise, the chaos faded to a blur. In that silence, their connection deepened just enough for both to feel it, and neither to admit it. By the time they returned to the driving school, the late afternoon light had softened into a warm gold that danced across the dashboard. She laughed nervously, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "So, I didn't totally ruin your car," she joked. Juan looked at her then, really looked, and the corner of his mouth lifted. Not yet. Something shifted in that shared smile. Something light, but lingering. Herself, it was just adrenaline, just relief from surviving her first lesson. But deep down, it was more than that. It was the feeling of being seen, really seen, for the first time in a long while, and it startled her more than any sharp turn could. "Yeah," she said, trying to sound casual. "I'll be here." She stepped out into the fading light, her pulse still racing, a strange smile playing on her lips. The car began to feel less like a cage and more like a shared world. Lena was getting better, steadier hands, calmer breath, but what she noticed most wasn't her progress. It was Juan's voice beside her, that calm tone that seemed to balance every storm inside her. He meant the car. His words echoed somewhere deeper. The streets became their classroom, the hum of engines, the rhythm of shifting gears, the world passing in fragments through the windshield. Juan pushed her gently, never cruelly, but with a quiet persistence that made her want to rise to meet it easily. It wasn't flirtation. It was something slower, quieter, trust in motion. One afternoon, while practicing parallel parking, Lena confessed softly, "I'm scared of failing." The admission surprised them both. Juan didn't rush to fix it, with the kind of weight that lingers long after the engine stops. And for the first time, Lena realized she wasn't just learning to drive, she was learning to let go of fear, one gear at a time, for the learning, but for the quiet conversations in between. She learned that Juan once dreamed of racing professionally, but life had steered him elsewhere. He never complained, just smiled when she asked if he missed it. "Sometimes," he said, "but teaching's a different kind of race, into a cocoon of sound and silver light. We can stop if you want," Juan offered, his voice barely rising above the storm. But Lena shook her head. "No, I want to keep going." The wipers fought the torrent as she gripped the wheel tighter, jaw set in stubborn determination, and soaked in adrenaline. The world outside blurred, streaks of water distorting the view, while inside the car, time slowed. "You did good," Juan said quietly. His tone wasn't that of an instructor anymore. It was something softer, almost personal. Rain eased, leaving a soft mist on the windshield. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The car felt like its own little world, quiet, safe, suspended between what was said and what wasn't. Lena leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Stubborn ones?" His laugh filled the car, rich and unguarded, especially them. As they sat there, the conversation drifted beyond driving into stories of childhood, disappointments, small victories that shaped who they were. Feel like understanding. When he finally spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. "You remind me of myself when I was younger." The words landed softly, and something inside her shifted, respect turning quietly into affection. As Lena parked, Juan gave her a small nod of approval, that same calm presence grounding her once more. "You're getting there," he said, and she knew he meant more than driving. Arrived faster than either of them expected. She'd improved. Her confidence was visible in every turn, every smooth stop, but something else had changed too. The car no longer felt like just a classroom. Her voice lacked the easy warmth it once carried. Lena noticed, though she pretended not to. It wasn't that he was cold, it was that he was distant, and that distance hurt in ways she didn't want to admit. During one lesson, she stalled the car at a traffic light, nerves betraying her focus. How much she cared. She wanted his approval again. His laughter, that quiet sense of connection they once shared before lines started blurring. Later that week, a classmate teased her as she waited in the lobby. "You and the instructor seem close," they said with a grin. Followed was silent, tension thick as the air before a storm. Every correction, every glance felt charged, and though neither said a word, both knew something had shifted. Their once easy rhythm now tangled with something far more dangerous. On the road, yet her thoughts betrayed her. Every movement, every correction from Juan's calm voice felt amplified, like the sound of his breath filled the small space between them. Rules that kept things steady, predictable, but Lena had unknowingly undone that balance. Her laughter still echoed in his head long after she left. Her determination reminded him of everything he'd once chased and lost. He told himself it was admiration, nothing more. It meant only that. Lena sensed the shift. She felt his restraint as clearly as she felt her own confusion. Her chest tightened each time his voice grew formal, like he was building walls she couldn't see but desperately wanted to break. He finally said, "That's enough for today." His tone was steady, but his eyes told a different story entirely. The next evening, Juan scheduled an extra session, Lena's last before her exam. The sun was setting, draping the streets in golden shadow. Drove carefully, her concentration split between the road and the man sitting beside her. Every instruction he gave carried a softness that unsettled her more than any mistake could. When they stopped at a quiet overlook, the city shimmering below, Juan spoke first. Lena looked at him, her throat tightening. "That's not true," she whispered before catching herself, quickly adding, I still have a lot to learn." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world outside disappeared. The hum of cars, the ticking clock, everything but the pull between them. He looked away first, Kim, to say something that would ease the ache sitting in her chest, but all that escaped was a faint, "See you tomorrow." She stepped out of the car, the cool air hitting her face, grounding her again. Lena woke early, her stomach tangled with a familiar mix of nerves and anticipation. The city outside buzzed faintly, but everything felt distant, muted, as if the world were holding its breath with her, the quiet ache of letting go. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither needed words. "Ready?" he asked softly. She nodded, even though her pulse was pounding. Juan said, his tone steady but distant, as if reminding both of them that today wasn't about them, it was about her. Lena took a slow breath, her fingers steadying on the wheel. For the first time, she felt the weight of independence waiting just ahead. The test began. His words echoed in her mind with every move. "Listen to the car. Feel. Don't fight." She did, and it worked. Her nerves melted into focus, her confidence steady and new. When she parked for the final time, the examiner gave a curt nod. "You passed." The examiner left with a polite handshake, but Lena's eyes immediately searched for Juan. He stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, watching her with that quiet calm she'd grown to depend on. For a second, she wanted to run to him, to share her victory like she would with someone who mattered. Words hit deeper than she expected. They were kind, sincere, and yet they carried the weight of a farewell. Juan's gaze lingered, warm but distant, like he was trying to memorize her in that moment before letting her go. "You learned more than how to drive," he added quietly. Lena swallowed hard, unsure how to respond, feeling it works better than fearing it. He smiled, and it was that same patient, steady smile from their first day, only now it carried something unspoken behind it. "That's the secret," he said. "Control isn't about power, it's about balance." Not to hold her hand, but to rest it lightly on her shoulder. "Go enjoy your freedom," he said. "You've earned it." As the crowd of students and instructors buzzed with chatter nearby, Lena stood still for a moment, letting the reality of it all sink in, professionalism firmly on. But she could tell, by the way his eyes flicked toward her once before looking away, that he felt it too. That quiet, bittersweet pride neither would dare to name. Fragments of their time together, The laughter after her first mistake, the rainstorm that blurred everything, the warmth in his voice when he said, "Trust yourself." For the first time, she realized this had never been about the car at all. Days, nodding once. "You did all the work," he replied, though they both knew that wasn't entirely true. There was a pause, a shared stillness before he added, "I'm proud of you, Lena." Her smile wavered but held. "I know." And the world seemed to move faster for Lena. With her new license, she began driving everywhere. To work, to her mother's house. Sometimes just aimlessly through long stretches of road. Each time her hands touched the steering wheel, she felt a calm confidence that hadn't been there before. Every so often, she'd pass by the driving school. The sign out front would glint under the afternoon sun, and for a fleeting moment, her chest would tighten. She would picture Juan inside, still teaching, still guiding, his voice calm and measured, settled into memory. Some connections, she realized, didn't need words to stay alive. One late afternoon, parked at a quiet overlook just outside the city, Lena watched the horizon burn gold. The world stretched endlessly before her, open, unmarked, full of choices, and alive. And as she shifted gears with easy grace, she knew she wasn't just driving forward, she was moving on. Later that day, she finally stopped by. The office smelled faintly of coffee and car polish, just like before. "I think I'm addicted to the road now." He nodded approvingly. "That's how you know you're free, when you drive because you want to, not because you have to." The words felt like the perfect ending to their shared chapter. Juan tilted his head slightly. "Just promise me one thing," he said. "Keep your hands steady, on the wheel, and in life." She smiled through the shimmer in her eyes. "I will." Painting the streets in soft amber, Lena drove with the windows down, the wind tangling her hair as music hummed low on the radio. Each curve of the road felt familiar now, not from repetition, but from belonging. As the highway opened before her, she pressed her foot lightly on the pedal and smiled. The sky stretched wide, a deep blue melting into gold. She didn't need directions anymore. It was waiting for her to live. Somewhere behind her, at that same driving school, another student was taking a nervous first turn under Juan's calm guidance. The circle continued. Lessons passed on. Engines starting again. But for Lena, this was no longer about the start. Kim, to say something that would ease the ache sitting in her chest, but all that escaped was a faint, "See you tomorrow." She stepped out of the car, the cool air hitting her face, grounding her again.